Hey YouTube, in today's video I'm going to be talking about not being able to pour from an empty cup. Alright you guys, so before I get started I want to talk about basically in our current climate right now there's a lot of burnout happening. I can't even put my hands to it, but so many people are facing different situations in their family. A lot of people are unemployed and they've lost their jobs, so a lot of people are feeling burnout. And in today's video I just want to talk about looking for yourself and knowing when you have the energy to give and knowing when you may need to hone in and reserve this energy. So for the first portion of this video I want to talk about why is it important to know that you can't pour from an empty cup. So for the first area that I want to talk about is burnout. All right, so essentially when talking about burnout is knowing when you're tired, knowing when you need to take a step back and rest, knowing when you need to either take a break from something, take some days off, or just kind of question your responsibility to a certain situation. Of course, there are things in our life that we can't control, but there's some things that we can control, and there are even some things that we can work on when it comes to allocating our resources. So for the first part, in terms of burnout, I can think about a lot of teachers that I had back in high school. And of course, there were some amazing teachers, some that never took off any days, some that never took any vacation, and they were dedicated to the students. But if you were to look at these teachers, there were a few of them that looked really good and that had a lot of energy. And there were some of the teachers that you could tell had been there for years, had put in so much work, and they were just tired. When I say tired, I mean they were going along with the curriculum, but they were just like this, like, all right, class, today, the tone in their voice, just that life was gone, and you could tell that they were burnt out. And it's almost like doing that same routine from day to day, essentially you get to a point where you don't have anything left to give. So I feel like knowing when you need to take a step back and say, all right, I need to take care of myself, to fill that cup back up and to say, all right, once I have that energy and once I'm feeling good, then you can freely give. Because I think a lot of times in our society we're work, do, and we're doing so much that we're not realizing that we're forgetting about ourselves in the process. And it's just like if you're not feeling good, the quality of what you're giving or what you're doing for other people is not going to be the same as if you're feeling content and completely filled up within yourself. And I think one of the parts too is knowing that it is okay to take care of yourself. It's not being arrogant, or it's not saying, I matter or I'm better than anyone. No, it's simply looking out for yourself, because at the end of the day, you have yourself. Of course, people have families, but your family is looking up to you. So knowing that when you take care of yourself, you can put forth the best work possible or make sure that you're fine and okay is very important. And moving on to our next question, asking the question about how can you make sure that your own cup is filled. A lot of this is unique for each and every one of us because we all have our own different things that we like to do, but there are also some basic things that we can hone in on as well. So one of the biggest things I would like to say is rest. 7 hours at least as a minimum, 7 hours plus. That is so key, and I can even attest to this myself, because I try and at least get 7 hours, but when there are days that I don't get enough sleep, I can feel it. Like that next day it'll feel like I'm dragging along at work, and I might be daydreaming, and even I may notice that in the process the quality of my work isn't the same, or I may not be giving my all like I usually would. When I get sleep, I'm a lot more responsive, and I'm also a lot more sharp in the situation. And also, I feel like my communication is better, but if I'm not sleepy, I may be checking in and out and I may not be there. So rest is extremely important. Another thing that's not talked about enough is vacation. Take some time off, even if it's like a day. There's a weekend, if you just take off that Friday, because I know that everyone can afford to take week-long vacations. That's understandable, but you can even work it out where, say that you take off a few days here and there, like it might be 2 days for 1 month, but taking off those days, your body knows it and it feels it, and you're able to rest and rejuvenate. But if you're just going straight through the year, not taking off any days or making sure that you have any time where you can just wind down from things and kind of detach, eventually you're going to experience clutter, and that's not a good feeling. And you kind of feel like, the wheels are spinning, but they're never going to stop. So I feel like knowing when you just need to say, all right, I need to take a day off and just focus on me. All right. And also, doing things that you love to do. So like if it's painting, watching movies, you know, if you like to work on cars, if you like to color, if you like to read books, you know, if you're into different kinds of movies, if you like to catch up on Game of Thrones, you know, or Gentrified, like all these different things, Netflix TV shows, there are a lot of different things that we like to do, but knowing that if you incorporate activities that you really enjoy, a lot of the times these things refresh us and also give us energy. And one of the last points that I want to make is to just relax. All right. If it's taking a long hot shower, you know, if it's taking some naps, if it's having a hot cup of coffee, having a cup of tea, you know, if it's going out in nature, whatever it is, but just making sure that you get that relaxation time in, because once again, that helps ground you and kind of bring everything in. And if you're relaxed and you're pulling that into yourself, that energy, a lot of the times that refreshes you and fills your cup back up as well. All right. And in saying this, like, I do understand that a lot of people may have families or they may have kids that they have to take care of. So then we take that into the next level, whereas if you have a family and you need to take a step back, hey, you know, have them spend time with their aunts and uncles and cousins for a day. You can't get rid of your kids forever, but you can set aside a day or afternoon where they can spend time with different relatives or their grandparents. And if that option isn't available, then you can also always engage in different activities with your kids that are really fun. It can be watching movies, you know, it can be going to the park, it can be playing board games. I mean, there's so many different options, because I know that for a lot of people, they may not have that outlet where they can actually detach. But you can do different interactive things with your kids, which is awesome too. And in the process, you guys are all feeling good, all filling each other's cups up. One of the other points I want to make, and this is the last point, is knowing your limits and setting healthy boundaries. So, for a prime example, if I know that I'm doing a lot of different things and I don't have the energy, if someone's like, "Hey, Ron, you know, we want to start this club right here, and we would like for you to take this position. It's a volunteer position, but we would like to know if you contribute your time." In the back of my mind, if I know that I already have a lot of different responsibilities, if I say yes, knowing that I don't have the energy or the time for it, that's going to take a lot of energy from me. So in that moment, it can be really tough to say no, but go with your gut. If you know that you don't have the bandwidth to do something else and it's going to take a lot from you, sometimes you got to just stand up and say no, you know? And I feel like no is something that a lot of people can be scared to do, but it does help set healthy boundaries. So knowing when to say no is very important. Another situation could be on a minor level, whereas if you may be filled with responsibilities at work and someone asks you to take on a project, you know, you can word it in a way where you can say, "I'm doing this at this time, but if we push the project back to this place in time when you do have time, taking it on." But taking that project on at a moment where you have a lot of other things happening, that's also going to take more from you as well and drain from your cup. So saying no when needed is extremely important, and that definitely helps set healthy boundaries. For the final point that I want to say is know thyself, right? I'm making this video and I'm giving you guys tips, but at the end of the day, you know who you are. I know who I am, you know, and you know what fills your cup up. You know where your boundaries are at. You know when you're feeling drained. So I feel like when you can really just sit down and go in tune with yourself and just say, how am I feeling right now? Am I feeling overwhelmed? Am I feeling content? Am I feeling happy? And there are days where sometimes we're just not feeling it. There's some days where I may just be feeling tired or whatever, and you know, it just may happen. So knowing that that may be a moment in time, but then also knowing when to say, all right, is this possibly a pattern that I'm noticing? And I feel like that's how you can decipher between where it just may be a funk that you're going through or a certain period in the day or the month. But if you're noticing patterns over time, that's when you can pinpoint it and say, okay, I need to work on this. So really, you know, take some time to just think about, how are you feeling? Are you feeling content? Are you feeling good? And then go from there. And I feel like that is super key. At the end of the day, you know you, and you got this. You know, you're capable of anything. You guys, please like, comment, subscribe, drop your comments down below, and please let me know if you have any tips as well for also filling up your cup and also knowing when to set healthy boundaries. Peace.